Hello and welcome to Future Insight Technology Fit 23, delivered by Chess. Who are Chess? Chess are one of the UK's leading independent and trusted technology service providers, employing 300 people across the UK, supporting over 20,000 organisations. It has been created as a knowledge-sharing platform focusing on the future of work, technology and business. Today's event covers a number of areas, including network, cloud and security. It brings together representatives from a range of leading technology companies, including Microsoft, Intel, and Cisco. My name is Don McIntyre. I'm a designer, technologist, and educator currently working at the Glasgow School of Art and the Digital Health and Care Innovation Centre, which doesn't get any easier to say, as design director. I am formerly of the Chess parish, where I held the role of creative lead, and where I had the privilege of meeting and indeed befriending, among others, Brian McKenzie, who joins us today, developer at Chess. What we're going to talk about today, amongst other things, is the significance of effective interaction for business. Perhaps obvious, but what are the processes involved in taking business online? We'll also explore the transformative impact, perhaps in the 50 minutes that we have, of internal and external portals, and how we work with partners to achieve that. Unashamedly, the lens to which we'll view these topics is rather selfishly education and healthcare, because I work in those fields. But before we do that, Bryony, one-time employee of the year, I'm going to embarrass her by saying that. Would you mind introducing yourself, and perhaps after you've done that, give a little introduction as to, or explanation of how you got to the role that you're in just now?
Certainly. I'm Bryony. I have been with the company for a very long time. I am currently a developer, working with a reasonably small team of other developers, and I primarily focus on the front end of websites, so that's kind of the visual side of web applications. I'm involved quite a lot in usability and accessibility, which we'll maybe touch on a bit later on. But I actually came into the role when I was 18 years old on a 2-week contract.
I remember that, Brian. Yeah.
It's a very long time ago now. But I was brought in to do some search engine optimization work on a website. And I don't actually remember how it escalated, but it really did. And I started teaching myself development. And I think I started properly working as a developer about eight or 9 years ago. I've just been continuing from there.
I love the fact that you used the term escalated into that role, and been escalating ever since. So tell me, based on what you've explained as the role that you're in just now, tell me a wee bit about what your day looks like, Brian. So give us a sense of what you might be doing over the course of 9 to 5 or 9 or whenever you're working. What kind of things are you involved
in? So we typically have 2 or 3 projects running on a given week, but we always try and work on one each day, so we're not jumping around too much. The day usually starts with like a huddle with our team. We are all very close to each other. We talk a lot throughout the day. Yep. So yeah, I think we start with a huddle, and then I usually have a pretty big piece of work to tackle each day. I might not finish that by the end of the day, but I try to. I usually I'll be working on the front end visual side of something, and then the rest of the team will be working on the back end. And it's usually later in the week that we'll probably meet up and put it all together. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, this makes sense. And yeah, it's amazing how far that role has taken you, doing that with such, and I know you do it with a lot of confidence now. I've seen you do it. It's a really great trajectory. So the big topic here, in terms of this 12.5 minutes that we have left, in terms of what an online presence supports. So that's a little bit reach, the obvious ones. Let's talk about the obvious ones: reach, engagement, customer support, data collection. But those relate primarily, or typically, I guess, the perceptions to externally facing business-to-business products. Which aspects do you think are relevant to an internal audience, as opposed, or in addition to that, from an internal perspective, Brian? What are your thoughts on
that? I think it's actually a lot of the same. It's just done a little bit differently. So it's important for everything to be built with usability in mind. But for an internal audience, that's just a slightly different thing because it's maybe more behind the scenes that we need to think about usability. Also in terms of like analytics, which is going to help you identify your reach and engagement, that is important for internal and external. Internally, it's important that you can make yourself trustworthy to your users.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good point. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's quite a big thing at the moment. Is like it's always easy to think, oh, we just want to get as much data as we possibly can, but that actually won't always get you as far as you think, because I think people are getting a lot more wise to privacy now. So often, yeah, people have apps in place or extensions in place to block all of that sort of stuff. But there's actually quite a lot out there that lets you gather data without infringing on people's privacy.
And I think we might touch on privacy a wee bit later. And data everywhere, but data's not knowledge, right? The two different things. I think you conflate those two things. So I know at Chess have a particular approach to how they work with clients, and it's the real deal. I mean, everybody's got a mission, right, in the way they work with people, but Chess do actually do that. Do you want to talk a wee bit about how Chess put that into action from your perspective as a developer?
Yeah, I think first off, I think we tend to have everyone involved from the start to the finish. So the kind of key developers are going to be there talking to the client from day one, and will be there as long as the relationship continues. But we always start with requirements. We usually do them in a workshop fashion. So it's kind of informal or relaxed, so that everyone's able to speak their mind and we actually figure out what people really want. We'll then go and interpret them, review them, make sure we're not missing anything, and start wireframing. So wireframing is basically just figuring out sort of skeletal structure of the web application.
You saved me asking that question there, so thank you for that. Because I was going to ask you that. Yeah. So what is wireframing? Which is kind of stream real estate, isn't it? Well, what's going where and what will it do? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you can sort of look at a page laid out, for example, and identify if something's completely wrong or if it's kind of how you want it. And then we can move into design workshops. So the developers are always involved at that stage as well, because designers always have excellent and exciting ideas, but sometimes we need to consider how possible they are to implement. So it's always good to have a conversation between the designers and the developers to make sure that we're doing something that sort of makes the most sense for what the customer needs and what the customer's budget is.
Yeah, and I guess, sorry to interrupt you, Benny, but kind of the point is there, right? You're doing things with the client as opposed to them, right? There's a kind of participationary partnership approach to that. And if it goes well, and they feel almost part of the team, is that the case?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we actually, I hadn't considered that customers aren't part of the team, to be honest.
I'm an old guy. I can remember when it wasn't the case, but that's and I've seen you guys do that. And can you describe a situation, Brian, perhaps where you don't obviously name the client, but whether a relationship with the client has grown as a result of that type of engagement and as a result of that partnership working in terms of delivery?
Yeah, there's a customer that I know has been with us for many, many years, much longer than I've been with the company. And we started out, they're a negotiation training company and they operate all around the world. They've got, I think, around 40 different franchisees, if not more. But they started out with a CRM system, a customer relationship management system that we built, and we now have a sort of new iteration of that, as well as 40 plus websites.
Wow.
We've rebuilt the CRM, we've rebuilt the websites 2 or 3 times. We also work with them for their, I think we call it their toolboxes, their sort of learning material for people that have attended training sessions, sort of ongoing learning material. But we're in communication with them like every day. We're always talking about new ideas for work. It's kind of, it's like we're part of the same company. I think, yeah, we've got a developer here that worked with them in the very first project. And there's people there that have been there since we started working with them, but also lots of people have changed over, but the relationship has continued.
Yeah, that really speaks volumes. And there's positive outcomes, presumably, Brian, right? It's positive outcomes on top of just delivery of the product or service. But there must be in terms of knowledge sharing with the customer too, right? In terms of how they learn from you and you learn from them. Is that the case, or am I imagining that, or am I wishing that into existence? Is that
No, that's definitely the case. I think once you've been working with a customer for a while and you've both figured out how each other operates, we start saving an awful lot of time. Like when they will bring us an idea, like they know how to phrase it to us so that we can then just immediately go away and start figuring out how we're going to deliver it. Like because we just know each other so well, yeah. A lot of the fat is cut down.
And let me ask you this, double back slightly, on the processes that you talked us through earlier on, which do you find as a developer in your role, which is the most challenging and which is the most rewarding of that process, would you say?
I think the most challenging point is when the customer gets their hands on the product. So the way that we work is we work iteratively, and we're sort of sharing our work with the customer throughout the process. So usually each week we're going to give them an update and show them what we've done. But at a certain point in a project, we sort of create a user acceptance test environment and let them try everything out. And at that point, because you can look at something and think it looks great, but once you start trying to use it, it can be a bit different. So usually at that point, there's a few changes that come out, or things that maybe the customer thought they wanted but actually didn't, or thought they wanted them in a different way. So there's usually a bit of discussion at that point and figuring out how we can adapt things as needed.
Diplomatically put, Brian, the dreaded scope creep kind of arrives like a freight train at the end there. So last question, the time that we have, Brian, and we've got a couple of minutes left. So what next? So what excites you? And you've always, as long as I've known you, you've always really been aware of technology and excited by technology. And I guess that's why you developed the career that you have. What excites you about what's coming next, or even either within the products and services and technologies that you're currently using, or what's coming over the hill that you think, God, I can't wait to get my hands on that? What would you say is interesting to you?
So I've kind of got two angles to that, I think. One is like in the design stage with the client, the tools that we used to have to use to try and show clients things were pretty clunky and awful. And now they're like spectacular, the things that you can do and the things that the clients can do without having to learn. Like they can just go in and see the designs and try them out, make comments, everyone can kind of talk to each other. It just makes that process much easier. Like you don't have to have meetings all the time. And then the other angle
30 seconds.
I'm under pressure. The other angle, I think that AI is getting to a point soon where some of the kind of repetitive code that we have to write we're not going to have to write it anymore, and we're going to be able to spend more time being more efficient communicating with our customers and solving problems.
Best answer about AI I've heard for a while. It's not going to do our jobs. It's actually going to going to give you time to do other things, isn't it? That's the mission. Thank you so much, Bryony, for a very informative 15 minutes. Plenty of interesting things on the rest of today, folks. 10 to 11 on the schedule I have, Security 101, Cyber Essentials, the Cyber Lab. And at 12 o'clock, there's a panel on the future of work in the area of AI. So a nice segue. Thanks very much. And thank you for joining us, everyone.